Explosions in the Russian capital. Moscow has been hit 4 times in 3 days. As you know, Moscow, the capital of Russia, is one of the most famous cities in the world. Although Moscow is actually the capital of the Russian Federation, many extreme Russian nationalists do not consider it enough for Moscow to be the capital. Because Russian nationalists want Kiev, the historical Slavic capital, to become the capital of the Russian Federation. This is also the reason why Russian leader Vladimir Putin took the decision to invade Ukraine. Since the beginning of the war between Russia and Ukraine, we have seen many times that the borders of the Russian Federation have been involved in confliction. Recently, we have also seen that Moscow, the capital of the Russian Federation, has been hit many times. We have also shared these events with you in our recent reports. The danger in Moscow continues. Unmanned aerial vehicles belonging to the Ukrainian army recently struck Moscow again. So, what is the latest situation in the region? Let's take a look at the developments together. As you know, the capital of the Russian Federation is located quite far from the main battle line. Therefore, many Russian sources have been talking about Moscow being safe since the beginning of the war and urging the Russian people to remain calm. However, the capacity of the Ukrainian army was becoming apparent as the days passed. Moscow becoming the brink of the major catastrophe. In recent months, Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles had first targeted the area where the Russian ministries are located. Recently, a factory in Moscow was hit by unmanned aerial vehicles in the morning, and a large explosion occurred in the building in Moscow in evening. The Russian defense forces, the Russian government officials, and the Russian people could not get over the shock of these attacks. Local sources had reported that there had been new explosions in Moscow. Odinstovo, located in the Moscow region, was shaken by violent explosions. Details of the explosions were emerging as the hours progressed. According to local sources, the Russian ammunition depot located in Odinstovo was targeted by Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles. Along with the Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles hitting the ammunition depot, the warehouses exploded with a big noise. With the explosions, the reaction took place with the munitions contained in the warehouses. It is also stated that a large fire occurred in the area after the explosion. Local sources have raised many allegations about the incident in question. Some sources claim that the area was hit by unmanned aerial vehicles. Some sources claim that pro-Ukrainian groups had carried out a sabotage attack in the region. There is a mood of panic in the region. According to claims, the Russian Federation has not encountered such large explosions in the Moscow region since the beginning of the war. Explosions in Moscow and various regions of the Russian Federation are increasing the panic within the country. This panic causes Russian citizens to feel even greater anger at Russian Federation President Vladimir Putin. The heavy losses of Russian troops, especially during the counterattack of Ukrainian forces, leaves Russian leader Vladimir Putin in a very difficult situation. During the Ukrainian counteroffensive, many different elements are also serving within the Ukrainian armed forces. Many citizens, especially from the autonomous states affiliated to the Russian Federation, are fighting against the expansionism of the Russian armed forces within the Ukraine. One of the units consisting of these soldiers is the unit known as the Sherman Battalion. The Sherman Battalion was successfully serving on the front line along with the invasion of Ukraine by the Russian army. However, the Sherman Battalion's struggle did not begin with the official start of the war. The Sherman Battalion had been carrying out operations by crossing the borders of Russia since 2014. The battalion described itself as vengeful. Recently, some members of the Sherman Battalion made some statements via social media. These statements included information about the Sherman Battalion's recent operations. The mentioned explanations are as follows. The Sherman Battalion's fighters crossed the Russian border to attack Russian air bases and to kill the Kremlin's top army commanders. After the statements of Sherman Battalion, the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine also made statements and shared information about the recent operations of Sherman Battalion. The statements made by the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine about the operations of the Sherman Battalion are as follows. The fighters attached to Sherman battalions are moving deeper into the occupied territories and continue to strike heavy blows at the enemy. Soldiers serving in the Sherman Battalion continue their operations in secret raids inside Russia to destroy infrastructure vital to the Kremlin's war effort. It seems that we will hear more names of warriors who served in the Sherman Battalion in the coming days. Along with the infiltration of the Sherman Battalion into Russian lines, it seems that Russian sources have shared numerous panic-filled reports. It is estimated that the destruction of infrastructure by the Sherman Battalion, which is especially vital for the Russian army, will significantly reduce the combat potential of the Russian armed forces. The Russian Federation is drifting towards a major impasse. The explosions within the borders of Russia, the success of the Ukrainian army on the front line are putting Russia in an even more difficult situation every day. However, the difficulties faced by Russia are not limited to this. As you may recall, Wagner War veterans were recently killed by several Russian citizens within the borders of Russia. These murders were of great importance from every point of view, because as you know, Russian citizens had accused these veterans of treason. We also mentioned that veterans returning from the war are highly respected people in every culture. The echoes of the killing of the Wagner War veterans continue. Interesting details continue to emerge about the Wagner War veterans who were recently murdered. During the attacks in question, 2 Wagner War veterans had lost their lives. The Wagner War veteran who had wounded made quite remarkable statements about the attacks in question. The statements of the Wagner War veterans in question are as follows. A group of mostly young people attacked us. I tried to block them with one leg, but I didn't succeed. They called me and my friends traitors. We had war medals on our chest. They ripped out our medals and threw them on the floor. I couldn't save my friends. Throughout the war, we only followed the orders given to us. I don't think we deserve that we have been through. The Wagner War veterans' statements caused a huge echo. Especially with the murder of the Wagner War veterans, the increasing tension in the region has become quite remarkable. According to local sources, the Russian government is planning to take new measures in the region. However, this claims still retains the need for the confirmation. What do you guys think? How long do you think the attack in Moscow will continue for? What will Russian leader Vladimir Putin do in the face of the attack in Moscow? What do you think about the operations of the Sherman Battalion? Wagner, what kind of effect will the murder of the war veterans reveal in Russia? We care about your opinions. Please share them with us.